Hello, welcome to Old Virginia Homes. The historic stone house we'll be visiting today sits in a peaceful hamlet between Paris, Virginia, and Middleburg. It was built by Quakers, known for their silent worship, their core values of peace and simplicity, and their beliefs in pacifism and equality. So the original builders of this house might have been dismayed to know that their home's parlor would be the birthplace of the Civil War's guerrilla movement, Mosby's Raiders. It is believed that John Mosby and his Rangers were officially organized here on June 10th, 1863. Jeb Stuart also called the home his headquarters during the Gettysburg Campaign. And the house served as a hospital for wounded Union cavalrymen in 1864. What a lot of action this house has seen. Join me as we visit the Rector House, an old Virginia home in Atoka. Let's go. Located in the Atoka district near Middleburg, the setting of the Caleb Rector House feels remote, quiet, and still. Well, except when the traffic picks up on nearby Route 50, which was formerly called Ashby's Gap Turnpike. But that traffic is mostly just passing by, rarely even slowing down. Although this circa 1801 house feels like it's off the beaten path today, it has seen more than its share of action throughout its 225 years. At one point in time, Rector's Crossroads was a place where roads, people, and consequential events intersected. There was almost constant moving of wagons, neighbors, messengers, and soldiers. History was in the making, passing right by and right through this old Virginia home's front door. The hand-laid stonework provided resilience and endurance. Although the house is named for its Civil War-era owners, Caleb and Mary Ann Hatcher Rector, it was actually built by Mary Ann's family, the Nichols Hatcher family, Quakers who operated a mill nearby. The family would have chosen this spot because anyone who wanted to move through Northern Virginia would have passed this way. The Ashby Gap Turnpike, Route 50, linked Paris to Aldie and continued east to Alexandria. The Rector House is currently owned by the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area Association, a historic preservation organization whose mission is to educate and advocate for the preservation of the extraordinary historic landscape and culture of a region that includes land in 5 counties in the northern Virginia Piedmont and lower Shenandoah Valley. Travis Shaw, the organization's Director of Education, will tell us more about the role this house played in Civil War history.
So the big association with the house, the reason why most people want to come and visit it, is its association with the American Civil War, particularly 2 big events that happened here in the summer of 1863. On June 10th, 1863, the Confederate guerrilla leader, Colonel John Singleton Mosby, meets here in this room to select his officers for what will become the 43rd Battalion, or Mosby's Rangers. And for the next year and a half, they're going to be a big thorn in the side of the Union Army across Northern Virginia, raiding wagon trains and things like that. He's going to use this house as a rendezvous spot repeatedly throughout the war. So very, very strong association with Mosby. But just about, not even a week or so later, this house is going to be at the center of a series of battles fought along Route 50 here, the battles of Aldie, Middleburg, and Upperville. So, Robert E. Lee is in the Shenandoah Valley, heading up north eventually to Pennsylvania, to Gettysburg. And he's trying to prevent the Union Army from crossing the mountains and, finding out where he is. So there's a series of fights along the Turnpike here, including the Battle of Upperville, which kind of rages all around us down at the Goose Creek Bridge. And during that period, Jeb Stuart, the Confederate Cavalry commander, is going to use this house as his headquarters on 2 occasions. And it's here where he plans his advance into Pennsylvania, which, students of the Civil War know that while Lee is heading towards Gettysburg, he doesn't know where Stuart is. Stuart's kind of off doing his own thing, and it leaves him kind of blind as he's going into Pennsylvania. So, depending on who you ask, the Battle of Gettysburg was won or lost right here in this room, because this is where he makes the decision to kind of go out of contact with Lee and take a different route to Pennsylvania.
In 1916, the last Rector family member living in the house recounted that the aging John Mosby, nearing the end of his life, knocked on the door and asked to come into the house. He sat quietly in the parlor and mused tearfully about my men. In more recent years, the house has been studied to determine its origins and subsequent modifications. In 2000, a dendrochronological analysis was done by student researchers from Cornell University. A cross-section of half timber that was used for the basement door jamb was sampled, along with 8 timbers. The resulting 1801 date was determined.
The core of the house, the 1801 core, built very much in that kind of traditional stone Quaker style. It was a little 2-room home. When we did, I call it the deconstruction, about 7 or 8 years ago, we took off all the modern drop ceiling and plaster, drywall and everything to try and get a handle on what this house would have looked like and what it would have been used for at the time. And what we ended up with was a lot more questions than answers. There's a lot of unusual things about this house. Like, you kind of see underneath this panel here, there was a doorway on that side. So some sort of steps leading up to this level. Another thing that we noticed behind this chair here is there was a stairway here as well, and you can kind of see the ghost of it along the wall. You can see where the floorboards, the stairway would have gone up in there and it was replaced. So whether there were 2 stairways or whether that stairway was moved, we don't quite know. The dimensions of this exactly match the dimensions of that side, which led some people to think that maybe this house was used as an ordinary or an inn. As a crossroads community, would have had a lot of people stopping here, that maybe some of the space would have been rented out to travelers, but we don't know for sure.
As you can see from these vintage photos, the house was stuccoed at one point. This was removed from the original part of the house, revealing this exquisite stonework. One of my favorite parts of this property is the spring house, built at around the same time as the Rector House and lying between Atoka Road and Route 50. This would have been a visually prominent stopping place along the Ashby Gap Turnpike, and it is thought that during the Civil War, troops would have rested here, including Jeb Stuart and his army. This 1-story, 2-bay random rubble structure has a batten door, exposed rafter ends, and wooden vent openings. The gabled roof is clad with wooden shakes.
So the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area is kind of taking the lead regionally on the 250th, planning interpretive events, educational programs. We're working very closely with Loudoun 250 as well as Clark County 250 to raise awareness of what this area would have been like during the American Revolution and the people around here who lived through that experience.
Thank you for visiting the Rector House with me today. To learn more about the house, the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area, and the ways that the association is working to educate and advocate for this region's wonderful historic landscape and culture, visit www.piedmontheritage.org online.